woman who first captured Romeo Montague's heart. Long before he met Juliet on that fateful night at the Capulet ball, Romeo's thoughts were consumed by another, Rosaline. Though never appearing on stage in Shakespeare's timeless tragedy, this unseen character plays a pivotal role in setting the entire plot of Romeo and Juliet into motion. In this video, we explore the character who lived in the shadows of one of literature's greatest love stories, the woman Romeo claimed to love before his eyes fell upon Juliet. In the opening scenes of Romeo and Juliet, we find a melancholy Romeo wandering the outskirts of Verona. His mother, concerned about his strange behavior, sends his cousin Benvolio to discover what troubles him. The answer? Romeo is lovesick, pining for a woman named Rosaline who has rebuffed his advances. Romeo describes Rosaline in glowing, hyperbolic terms, declaring, "The all-seeing sun ne'er saw her match since first the world begun." Yet despite his poetic declarations, Rosaline has forsworn to love, choosing instead a life of chastity. Romeo laments, "She hath forsworn to love, and in that vow do I live dead that live to tell it now." This rejection plunges Romeo into deep despair, affecting not only him, but those around him. His friend Mercutio comments that same pale, hard-hearted wench, that Rosaline torments him so that he will sure run mad. Romeo's friends, hoping to lift his spirits, convince him to crash the Capulet feast, where they believe Rosaline will be in attendance, suggesting he might find other beauties there who would make Rosaline look like a crow by comparison. While often overlooked, Rosaline's identity holds significance for the plot. She is a niece of Lord Capulet and cousin to Juliet. This connection to the enemy household creates an initial obstacle for Romeo's affections, foreshadowing the greater conflict to come when he falls for Juliet herself. When Romeo agrees to attend the Capulet feast disguised with a mask, he does so hoping to glimpse Rosaline. Instead, he spots Juliet, and his feelings change instantly. "Did my heart love till now? Forswear its sight, for I ne'er saw true beauty till this night." Rosaline serves several crucial dramatic functions in Shakespeare's play. First, she acts as the catalyst that brings Romeo to the Capulet feast where he will meet Juliet. Without his pursuit of Rosaline, this meeting would have been unlikely, if not impossible. Second, Rosaline provides a contrast that helps define the nature of Romeo's love for Juliet. Literary critics often compare Romeo's infatuation with Rosaline to his deeper connection with Juliet. Some view his feelings for Rosaline as childish infatuation compared to his true love for Juliet. The poetry Romeo uses when speaking of Rosaline is notably weaker and more conventional than the authentic, passionate verses he composes for Juliet. As scholar Henry David Gray wrote in 1914, "It is because we must perforce contrast it with his love for Juliet that we condemn it as frivolous or unworthy." This contrast helps readers understand the difference between superficial attraction and profound love. The name Rosaline carries its own significance. It is a variant of Rosalind, a name of Old French origin combining ros, meaning horse, and lind, meaning soft and tender. When imported into English, it was associated with the Latin Rosalinda, meaning lovely rose. Romeo sees Rosaline as the embodiment of the rose because of her name and her apparent perfections. The name commonly appears in Petrarchan sonnets, a poetic form Romeo attempts to use when describing both Rosaline and Juliet. Since Rosaline remains unattainable, she makes a perfect subject for this stylized poetry. But Romeo's attempts to capture his feelings for her in verse are forced and weak. By the time he meets Juliet, his poetic ability has improved considerably, suggesting his feelings have deepened and matured. Some psychoanalytic critics see deeper significance in Romeo's unrequited love for Rosaline. They suggest his attraction to an unattainable woman from a rival house who has sworn to remain chaste represents an impossible situation, one that perpetuates emotional trauma rather than resolves it. According to this interpretation, Romeo's fixation on Rosaline might represent a pattern of seeking out impossible relationships. His love for Juliet follows a similar pattern. She too is a Capulet, making their relationship forbidden. The key difference is that Juliet reciprocates his feelings, changing the dynamic but not eliminating the fundamental impossibility of their situation. Beyond serving merely as a plot device, Rosaline marks Romeo's emotional development throughout the play. In the website No Sweat Shakespeare, scholars argue that If a writer wants to show us an emotionally immature teenage boy, what better method than to show all of us who are males what we were like when we first fell in love with a girl we had only seen? Romeo begins the play as a typical lovesick teenager, wallowing in rejection and speaking in poetic cliches. His obsession with Rosaline reveals his initial immaturity and his tendency to fall in love with an idealized image rather than a real person. As the play progresses, particularly after meeting Juliet, Romeo grows from this infatuated boy into a young man facing real consequences and making life-altering decisions. The contrast between Romeo's early preoccupation with Rosaline and his later actions demonstrates his transformation from teenage love freak to mature young adult. His obsession with the idealized Rosaline evolves into a practical reckoning with real-life and death situations brought on by his relationship with Juliet. Over centuries of performances, directors and actors have interpreted Rosaline in various ways. In the mid-18th century, Theophilus Cibber's version of Romeo and Juliet eliminated references to Rosaline entirely, removing the love at first sight moment at the Capulet feast. Similarly, in the 1750s, actor and theater director David Garrick also cut Rosaline from his performances, as many considered Romeo's quick replacement of her morally questionable. In more recent film adaptations, directors have made different choices regarding Rosaline's visibility. Franco Zeffirelli's 1968 film version of Romeo and Juliet actually shows Rosaline, played by Paola Tedesco, at the Capulet feast, allowing audiences to see Romeo's shift in affection from Rosaline to Juliet. Renato Castellani's 1954 film version includes a brief non-Shakespearean scene where Rosaline, played by Dagmar Josipovic, gives Romeo a mask at Capulet's celebration and urges him to leave before harm comes to him. Other filmmakers keep Rosaline off-camera in stricter accordance with Shakespeare's text. In recent years, there has been growing interest in Rosaline as a character in her own right. Several modern works have attempted to give voice to this silent figure from Shakespeare's play. Robert Nathan's 1966 romantic comedy, Juliet in Mantua, presents Rosaline as a fully developed character. This sequel imagines that Romeo and Juliet didn't die, but lived in exile in Mantua for 10 years before returning to Verona, where they discover Rosaline is now married to Count Paris. Another play, After Juliet, written by Scottish playwright Sharman MacDonald, tells Rosaline's story after Romeo's death. In this version, she struggles with her loss and rejects the advances of Benvolio, who has fallen in love with her. MacDonald's daughter, actress Keira Knightley, played Rosaline in the play's 1999 premiere. More recently, Rosaline has been featured in the West End musical And Juliet, and was the protagonist of the 2017 American drama series Still Star-Crossed, where she was portrayed by actress Lashana Lynch. In 2022, a feature film titled Rosaline, starring Caitlin Dever and directed by Karen Maine, offered a comedic retelling of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet from Rosaline's perspective. Some Shakespeare scholars have proposed interesting theories about why Rosaline exists in the play at all. Henry David Gray suggested in a 1914 article that when Shakespeare was revising Romeo and Juliet around 1597, having possibly written an earlier version around 1591, he may have created Rosaline as a way to repurpose some of his earlier love poetry. According to this theory, Shakespeare recognized that his ability to depict love had evolved significantly between 1591 and 1597. Rather than discard his earlier, more stilted love poetry, he created Rosaline as a character for whom Romeo could express these less mature sentiments. The contrast between Romeo's feelings for Rosaline and Juliet would then reflect Shakespeare's own development as a writer. While this remains speculative, it offers an intriguing explanation for why Romeo's expressions of love for Rosaline feel different from his declarations to Juliet. As Gray writes, the contrast of Romeo's love for Rosaline and his love for Juliet is simply the contrast of Shakespeare's ability to represent love in 1591 and 1597. Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet draws from earlier Italian tales, including Arthur Brooks' narrative poem The Tragical History of Romeo and Juliet, 1562, and William Paynter's Palace of Pleasure, 1567. Both of these sources mention Romeo's prior love before meeting Juliet, though neither names her as Rosaline. Shakespeare's decision to develop this character more fully and give her a name and family connection was a deliberate choice that enhanced the dramatic structure of his play. Rosaline may never speak a line or appear on stage in Romeo and Juliet, yet her presence shapes the entire narrative. From catalyzing Romeo's attendance at the Capulet feast to providing a contrast that defines the depth of his love for Juliet, this unseen character proves that sometimes the most powerful influences remain in the shadows. As modern adaptations continue to explore her story, Rosaline emerges from the margins of Shakespeare's text into a character worthy of her own spotlight. If you enjoy this video, please like and share it with friends and family, and subscribe to History Scroll for more interesting videos like this.